Today I will talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of teaching. Jupiter gets exalted in the sign of Cancer. Jupiter's own house is Pisces and Sagittarius. Jupiter is the planet of mature thinking. Jupiter is strong in the first house. Jupiter is strong in the second house. Jupiter is strong in the fourth house. Jupiter gets strong in the fifth house of the birth chart, but it is not lucky for your progeny. Jupiter is favorable in the seventh. Jupiter will be favorable for you in the ninth. Jupiter will be favorable for you in the 10th. Jupiter will be will give you favor in the 11th of the birth chart from the ascendant. Jupiter, if is in conjunction with Moon, then it is a Gajakeshwari Yoga. Jupiter, if comes in conjunction with Mars, then it is Guru Mangala Yoga. Jupiter, if comes in conjunction with Saturn, then it is Guru Shauri Yoga. Jupiter, if comes in conjunction with Sun, then it is again a Guru Shauri Yoga. Jupiter, if comes in conjunction with Mercury in any of the houses of your natal chart, then it is a yoga of knowledge. It is Saraswati Yoga. Jupiter, if comes in conjunction with Venus in the sign of Pisces, then it is a very learned yoga. The man or woman who ever have this conjunction will be very learned in his life. Will have several academic duties. Will have several academic degrees. I'm sorry, not duties, it is degrees. And as well, Jupiter is a planet of peace. Jupiter is not a warmonger like Mars or Saturn. Jupiter, if placed alone in your first house of the in your birth chart in the ascendant, that is in the lagna, then that Jupiter will cast its seventh aspect on your house of marriage, that is in the seventh house. It will cast its fifth aspect on your progeny sign, and it will cast its ninth aspect on your ninth house, that is the house of luck. Jupiter, where sits, will damage that house. Jupiter, where casts aspect, will flourish that house. That means Jupiter in the first house is setting, it will damage the first house. And where it is casting its aspect, that is, it is casting its aspect in the 5th, 7th, and 9th, it will flourish the 5th, 7th, and 9th. That means by the 9th house, as it is casting its aspect on the 9th house, your luck will flourish regarding your career matters, regarding earning matters, regarding getting paternal wealth regarding getting paternal wealth. Jupiter will help you a lot as it is casting its full aspect on the 9th house, that is the house of the father. While it is casting its 7th aspects on the 7th house, in the house of your marriage, the marriage of yours will be very good. You will get a very good spouse who will be helpful for you, who will cooperate with you. And of course, when it is casting its fifth full aspect on the progeny's house, you will get good children. The children will be good, educated, looking beautiful, etc. and etc. Jupiter own nakshatra is the nakshatra number 7, nakshatra number 16, and nakshatra number 25. These are Jupiter's own nakshatras. Now, coming to the point of Jupiter, whether Jupiter will, if Jupiter is placed, Jupiter is the planet of professor. Jupiter is the planet of a judge. Jupiter is the planet of making a lawmaker. The person who used to make laws for our country must have a well-placed Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of lawyers. Jupiter is the planet of the subject economics. Economics comes under Jupiter. Jupiter, if we see that, is being affected, is being disturbed by the aspect of Saturn. That means Saturn third aspect, Saturn's 10th aspect is upon Jupiter on your natal chart. That Jupiter is disturbed from the aspect of Saturn. If Rahu is casting a 12th full aspect upon Jupiter, that means the Jupiter is disturbed. If Rahu is casting its 5th aspect on Jupiter, that means the Jupiter is disturbed. That Jupiter will not be able to give you protection regarding career matters, regarding education matters. Education matters comes first. If Jupiter is being disturbed by Saturn or Rahu, or Jupiter is seated with Ketu, then you must have faced trouble regarding your education purpose. You will not be able to complete your education by the time you need to qualify. I'm sorry, I'm repeating again. If Jupiter is disturbed by Saturn, Mars, not Mars, Saturn, Rahu or Ketu in your natal chart, then that Jupiter will definitely give you trouble regarding your educational part of your life. That means you will get disturbed by, you will not be able to acquire the marks of your dream. Certainly, Saturn, Rahu, or Ketu will nullify the quality of Jupiter in many ways. Your memory can be disturbed. Memory comes under Mercury, but maturity of the thinking, maturity of our speech, the term maturity comes under the planet Jupiter. Jupiter gives us maturity. That means the learned advocates of the courts are aged 50 or 65 years, 50 to 55 years aged doctor has so much experience in his life by seeing patients. That means that experience comes under Jupiter. Whereas an MBBS student who has recently completed his course is not so much experienced. That means the term experienced comes under Jupiter. Jupiter and Mercury are related with our education. But we will certainly depend upon Jupiter while choosing the best subjects in the college, in the universities, because Mercury is only intellect, but getting a subject of my choice comes under Jupiter with the aid of Venus. Now, Jupiter is the planet of pure gold. Jupiter is the planet of bullion. Jupiter is the planet of stock exchange, stock market. Jupiter is the planet of the subject economics. Jupiter comes under the judge of the high court. Judge is definitely a part of Jupiter. Jupiter is law, but with aid of Saturn. Saturn gives tremendous punishment, whereas Jupiter binds Saturn while giving tough punishments. That means Saturn will definitely give tough punishment to a prisoner, but Jupiter will bind Saturn in giving tough punishments, because Jupiter is not so much hard. Jupiter is the teacher. Jupiter is the teacher of the gods and goddesses. Jupiter bows before Venus. Jupiter gives permission to Venus to come to my own house Pisces and get exalted. That's why Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces, that is Jupiter's house. Jupiter has given permission, Jupiter has welcomed Venus that please come to my house and get exalted, because Venus is much more learned than Jupiter. Devguru Shukracharya knows Sanjivani mantra, which is on aware to Devguru Brihaspati. That's why Jupiter respects Venus very much. And though they are enemy, as one of them is Guru and another is Devaguru, both are enemies, but still Devaguru Brihaspati, Jupiter, gives respect to Venus and gives him the permission to get exalted in his own house, Pisces. That's why Venus gets exalted in Pisces. Jupiter, if comes in conjunction with Rahu in the sign of Sagittarius, if Jupiter comes in conjunction with Rahu in the sign of Pisces, or if Jupiter comes in conjunction with Rahu in the sign of Cancer where he gets exalted, what will happen? Will that Jupiter will give us benefic results, or that Jupiter will fail to give benefic results? There is a law that if Rahu comes with a planet who is exalted or in his own house of that planet, Rahu boosts up the power of that planet by a factor of 4. Forget Guru Chandala Yog now. If Rahu comes in conjunction with a planet who is exalted or is in his own sign, Rahu and Ketu will boost up the power of that planet by a factor of 4. That means Rahu Jupiter in Cancer, Rahu Jupiter in Pisces, Rahu Jupiter in Sagittarius. That Rahu will boost up the positive and negative effect of Jupiter by a factor of 4. Whether I will use my knowledge for the benefit of the society, whether I will use my knowledge for causing damage for somebody else, for the society, that is also coming upon this position. That means a learned man, whether utilize his knowledge for the benefit of the society, or whether he will misuse his knowledge and will cause damage to certain persons of the society, coming upon Rahu and Jupiter in Sagittarius, in Pisces, in Cancer, as Rahu is boosting up the quality of Jupiter by a factor of 4. Whether Jupiter will able to overcome that Rahu or not will depend upon the house where Jupiter is placed from Lagna. If Jupiter is placed in 6th, 8th or 12th, this Rahu Jupiter in Aries, not Aries, in Pisces, Cancer or Sagittarius, this Jupiter will sometimes bow down before Rahu, as 6th, 8th and 12th is not the place of Jupiter. These are the places of Rahu, 6th, 8th, 12th. Rahu will win upon Jupiter and will do whatever Rahu likes. Rahu and Ketu will act in the same way if it comes in conjunction in the houses of Pisces and Sagittarius. That means Rahu Jupiter in Pisces and Ketu Jupiter in Sagittarius will act in the same way. And if it comes in 6th, 8th or 12th, then Jupiter will bow down before Rahu or Ketu. If it is in the 7th, 11th, 10th, 5th, 4th, then Jupiter will overcome Rahu or Ketu. For today it is enough. I will talk it about later. I will talk certain beautiful things for you. Please keep me watching. Thank you.